Hello, hello, hello. If you can see me, welcome to session 2. We've had so many classes this week that I'm keeping up. You probably feel the same way. Welcome to session 2 of October Soul Shift. I'm so happy that you're here. And I'm happy that I'm here. And I'm excited for the work that we're going to do together. We have a lot that we're going to do over the next 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. So I hope you're ready and excited. Something really exciting happened to me today. I'll show you just the Spanish one. But all of the international, what they call co-editions, the translated editions of The Ultimate Guide to Chakras arrived today. And what's really cool is the original book was soft cover, but all of the translated global editions are hardcovers. Isn't that cool? So this is in Spanish, the Ultimate Guide, the integral guide to chakras. Isn't that cool? So I have Italian, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. They gave me like 1 or 2 of each. Isn't that special? So anyway, I'm just celebrating with you because that was a really big deal. The main reason I chose this publisher when they reached out to me, the main reason I said yes to them, because there's a lot of publishers in the world, is that they really work very hard to get their authors' books published in other languages around the world. So it's been translated into 9 languages, which is a really big deal, but it's really fun to know that people can find this book in their local bookstores in their language of origin and have access to it that way. Isn't that cool? You guys know how much I love language. Actually, it's been translated into German too. It's 9 languages. It's Cantonese, German, French, Portuguese, Spanish. I'm going to lose track. Russian, French. So I said French? Yeah. Anyway, it's exciting. I had to share that with you because it's days like this, when that comes, that's one of the biggest moments in my career, I have to say. So Claire came marching in with them and I was like, I'm going to start crying. This is a really big deal. So I had to share that moment with you. We have some exciting things to talk about today. I wanted to make sure that you knew what's in the shop. So if you wanted the extra little salt jar label thing for the craft at the end of the month, it's in the shop. Otherwise, you can bring your own salt, bring your own jar, bring your own label. But if you're going to get it, I would get it soon because we're going to be crafting. I think it's 2 weeks from tonight. Is that right? 3 weeks from tonight. So I just want to make sure you have time to receive it if you want it. If you don't need it, then you don't have to worry about that. We have Super 7 hearts. I don't have one to show you, but they are so beautiful. Oh, actually, I do have one to show you. I wanted to make sure that you saw this because sometimes you guys miss stuff, which, happens. What else do I want to show you really quickly? We do have your Soul Shift or your Shadow Shift candles back in stock, so making sure that you saw that too. The code is GEM19 for 19% off. There are 34 Hecate's Keys necklaces left as of when class started. So if you do want one, that's the final quantity because we're not going to remake these, and I love it so much. So you don't have to have one, but if you want one, they're there, and there's 34 of them left. Whoops, as I throw that on the floor. And then, kind of fun, right? Thank you. I haven't worn this dress in a while. This is actually an older dress. It's the same brand. It's the One World, but I found this kind of in the back of my closet today, and I was like, this is one I should wear. It felt really good for today. That's a good question. Okay, so when I was in Denver, I just want to show you the story really quick. The Super 7 is, depending on who you ask, the Synergy 12 is really powerful, but the Super 7, in theory, is 1 stone per chakra that heals that chakra. So that's why it's considered so special. And so Melody, who wrote Love is in the Earth, it's one of the original crystal books, right? She's the original Judy Hall, the original Athena Baracus, the original whatever other gem, Robert Simmons, right? So she had said that there was only 1 find ever of Super 7 and it'll never be found again. Well, the man who owns this mine in Brazil, and it's his hearts that are in the shop today, he's had them tested. And all 7 of the minerals are present. This is the first time I've brought you material that I can say, you know what? I can visually see with my own eyes all 7 minerals in the lot of these minerals together. They don't all show it to the eye, but he's been in the mine and it's been tested as authentic Super 7. So if you've been wondering, like, do I have real Super 7? Is it possible to get real Super 7? So the hearts that are in the shop today is all he had for a year's worth of production. So if you want to experience it, the hearts are in the shop. There's 4 different sizes, so they go, I think it's extra small to large, and it's $39 to $69 depending on the size. I would get one and give it to Sylvia and have her make you a necklace. Like, even the smaller sizes would be good for that. Can you imagine? She does these where she attaches the metal at the top corners and makes it into like a choker. That's what I visualized when I bought these. But you can just keep it on your altar. I mean, it doesn't have to become jewelry for you, right? But just in case you missed that, he didn't have a lot of Super 7 to begin with, and these are the only hearts that he had. So I wanted to mention that in case you missed it. I know, right? So yeah, your code's 19GEM if you're shopping today. Don't forget that. Okay. Now that I have talked about that, our plan for today is twofold. So first of all, we're going to do a little bit of crafting because I want you to at least consider the possibility, entertain the possibility with me, of doing a shadow card, doing a shadow collage that represents either work that you need to do. I'm just checking all of my supplies here. Either work that you need to do or the energy of where you are. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about Hecate before I have you make your card, and then we're going to go through our herbs and oils. We're going to make our perfume. I'm going to teach you about 2 other possible crafts you can make with your Mesa tools that I'm not selling or making for you, but you could use your tools to make them. One is a sleep sachet, and the other one is a really fun astral travel, astral projection incense that you could make. So I'll talk to you about that today too. And then, let me see if there's anything else on my radar for today. Our grid's already activated, so I'm going to talk to you about the stones in your grid and the metaphysical properties. And then that'll be it for today. So with that, session 2 of Hecate's World is good to go. Yeah, so this is session 2 when we make our perfume and work with our herbs and oils. But before we do that, we're going to do a little crafting and learning because we're combining a bonus session with today's class. And we've done this craft before. We did a shadow card before. This was the one I made. I don't know if you remember that. It's been a little while, which is why I revived the craft again because it's so helpful. So this is one that we made together. And my shadow work at the time was called Love the Outlaw. There is part of me that is an outlaw. You know what I mean? So like, and I've had to learn how to love her, right? So yeah, this was back with our shadow work and of light and shadow. So I've got some a little board here, right? That's cut out, sort of like a vision board, but instead of trying to manifest, you're trying to connect. You know, it's like giving your shadow a visual, something that you can look out outside of your head that represents the energy of it. Helps you visualize it. And it's a really good thing to put on your altar. Yeah, so Fairyman's like, I thought we were starting at 4. You didn't miss much, but we were doing a bonus class before, and I haven't really started the bonus class yet, so you're kind of right on time. I have some E6000 and some glue sticks to glue things down. Alexis gave me lots of different pictures. I've got some cutouts that I wanted to include. And so basically it's just clippings of words or images that represent to you some part of the shadow work that you are doing this season. If you don't know who this woman is or why I'm holding up her picture, then you missed my birthday present from Brooklyn, perhaps. And I don't know if I should say congratulations or I'm sorry for that. Libby Higgins actually knows who I am because Brooklyn hired her to record a birthday message for me that I'm sure we can dig up for you if you feel the need to see that. Anyway. And then, it doesn't all have to be like concrete. It can just be images where you look at it and you think, yeah, there's something in that for me, which is like what this represents. I don't know. So it's just a mix of things and words, images that conjure different feelings and emotions in you. It was so good. I know. She knows about Sheriff Dave. My life is so funny. Like, honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm living a stand-up comedy. Like, really? Really. It really is that funny sometimes. And then I have rhinestones. You can use chipstones. You can adorn your little card to your heart's content. So that's what we're doing today for the first part. But before we dive in... before we dive in, I want to teach you a little bit. So let me bring your attention back. By the way, the other way to do the shadow cards. So there's shadow cards that represent kind of the totality of how you see your shadow right now. But the other way to do a shadow card is to represent what I would call a dense energy in your life, some energy that you're trying to work through or navigate that feels overwhelming to you. So I created this card before I created Sage Goddess. I think I've shown this card to you before. This was actually a soul collage card that I made, and this sits at home because it really means a lot to me, and it represents different forces in my life trying to push me beyond my comfort zone, right? So I don't know if you can see that, but she's blindfolded and she's going underwater, and so that's supposed to be me, and then that arm coming out is both a force pushing me toward what I fear and also a force shielding me from what I fear, if that makes sense. So that's a different way. Like, you can make this into an art piece subconsciously about, which takes a little bit more time. This one, even though it probably looks fairly simple, this one took me like 3 or 4 hours. If you include the crying time and the processing time, you know what I mean? Like, this was really, really deep. So you can keep this kind of a superficial level craft where you're just like, oh, it's like a vision board, or you can really let this be a picture of your subconscious, which is what this was at the time for me. And even though I'm not in that place anymore of feeling like I'm being led into or pushed into places of discomfort for the purposes of learning, like, I don't feel like it's that anymore. I do feel like this card still speaks to me. There's something in it that reminds me that I'm always on my learning edge. There's always a way for me to go deeper. There's always a way for me to move toward my own evolution, right? Like, I may not fear water, and I may not fear being, like, losing my senses the way I did. I made this, I made this sort of before Sage Goddess, but after my diagnosis.
Oh, we're off.
And the way I found out that I had MS was, and I think you know this story, but just so you understand, like, my shadow and how it connects to past life stuff. I felt pretty good, actually, when I got diagnosed. But I was traveling and I was consulting in the southern United States. I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, on my way to Germany, because I was meeting with our one client. I don't remember what the name is, but it's like the big power company down in the southern United States, and the headquarters are in Chattanooga. You guys probably know better than I do anymore. I don't remember the client, but it was like PG&E is here in California. It's whatever the big energy company is down south. So I had their senior executive team that I was meeting with that morning, and then at the end of that day, I was literally getting ready to fly from Chattanooga to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta to Germany to meet with the senior team of Siemens. AEP, that's right. So I was at AEP, and I was getting ready to go in. I had built this entire leadership training program for them, and I was in my little, I don't even know what a hotel it was. It was like a Holiday Inn in Chattanooga, okay? And I'm starting to get ready in the morning, and so it's like 5:36 a.m. Chattanooga time, which is 3:34 or 4 a.m. California time. And I'm starting to get ready in the morning, and I'm losing my vision. Like I'm looking at things around the room and in the bathroom, and I'm starting to get ready, and things are getting dark. Okay. And so, it was getting darker in one eye faster than the other. And in 30 minutes time, I went from being able to see out of both of my eyes to completely losing vision in one eye and about 50% losing vision in the other eye. And here I am. I've been building this program that I'm there to deliver to these executives. I've been building it for 6 months. They've approved it. I'm now there to deliver it. And I'm getting ready. I have to fly to Atlanta the next night and fly to Germany to deliver another training program 48 hours later. And like everything depends on it, okay? So I remember standing there at the sink and just looking in the mirror, and I literally couldn't see. I kept blinking, like, it was my eyelid. It was all by myself, okay? And I've never been to Chattanooga or even to Tennessee before, so I don't know anybody. So I call my contact, because whenever we traveled, and this is like such a powerful story for today maybe. Whenever we traveled, we had a primary contact. So if we got to the city and like something happened, we had a person that we could reach out to. So my contact was the head of AEP at the time. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to call this like senior executive in a regionally powerful organization and say, hi, I'm the consultant who's here to deliver this program for you today. And I think I just went blind in my one eye. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I started to cry because I was really embarrassed, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's happening to me, and like they've sent me here, and I had only been working for the company for about 6 months. So I called my boss, and she said, call your contact. So I called my contact, and my contact was an amazingly beautiful man. And so he said, oh my God, I'm so worried about you. You know, and he asked me how old I was, and I told him, and because at the time I was probably 34, 35, and he said, oh my God, you're so young. I have an ophthalmologist in town, and I will call him right now. His office doesn't open till 9. Remember, it's like 6 in the morning. I will call him right now, and I will get you in to see him, and we will postpone this training. We'll say it'll start at noon, so you can at least go and see him and we'll see what's going on. So I called Dave, and I'm like, are you awake? Listen, don't panic. Everything's okay, but I can't see. And I just reached out to my contact, okay? And he said not to worry. He's going to send me to his ophthalmologist. And Dave's like, what's going on? Like, when you blink this way, what happens? When you blink that way, what happens? So, like, long story short, this beautiful man, he's like, and don't even worry, I'm going to pick you up at your hotel. I will drive you to him. Like, he is such a guardian angel. This guy did not have to be this kind to me. Like, I just was a consultant. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why he was so generous and beautiful. And because I was really afraid. Like, I had never lost my vision. So he's like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, and I'll drive you over there. So I get to his ophthalmologist, and I walk in, and the guy looks at me, and he's like, so I just want you to know, I'm an ophthalmologist. I'm not a neurologist. So I'm going to take a look at your eye. But I was trained at UCLA at the Jules H. Stern Eye Clinic, and I am an expert in what I do. So I should be able to identify what this is, but if we can't, we'll get you where you need to go. So he's like, I'm going to do all these tests, and I'm like trying not to panic. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know that there's like 100 executives waiting in this room for like this thing that I created, and I'm like, shit. And so he stops the exam, and he looks at me, and he goes, we either have to get you home or we have to get you to Atlanta today. And my heart is like pounding. And he said, because you either have a brain tumor or you have MS. And I can't tell you what it is right now, but it is one of those two things. And without an MRI, I can't. And he's like, and it's Friday. It was Friday. So he's like, if I don't get you to Atlanta, he's like, we have no MRI machines in Chattanooga, right? So he's like, if I don't get you to Atlanta today, then we won't know what's going on with you until Monday. But you have the right, of course, to go home too and see if you can get in to see your neurologist this weekend. So I was like, and he's like, in the meantime, do you want to try and, like, we need to get you to the airport. So, and of course, the man I'm supposed to deliver this program to his group is just like, it's all about you right now. Like, we will get you home, right? Do you want to go home? Do you want to go to Atlanta? Because I was supposed to go to Atlanta anyway to go to Germany. And I was like, so my head is swimming. And so when I found out, I flew home. I was able to get an MRI on Saturday, but they weren't going to have results for me until Monday. So it was the following Monday that I got diagnosed with MS. And it was the happiest moment of my entire life. Honestly, that moment of being told that I only had MS, you know, and that I would eventually get my vision back. It would take 60 days. It ended up taking almost 90 days for me to get my vision back, so I couldn't drive a car or anything for 90 days. Keep in mind, my kids are 1 and 3 years old at this time. So when you say you can't drive your kids anywhere for 3 months, you can't go to work for 3 months, you can't do anything for 3 months, right? But at least I didn't have a brain tumor. I mean, that was my whole thought at the time, was like, just thank you, God, for this. Like, thank you for this. I'm so happy to have this. This is such good news. Whereas 99% of people, when they get that call that says you have lesions on your brain and you're positive for MS, they're usually like, oh my God. I was like, yes, like, thank you. It was the best moment of my life, right? But what my guides were telling me was, get the F out of this job. Like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. And if you keep making these choices that aren't in line with what you're supposed to be doing, like, it's not that the work wasn't right, but it was like how and where and what and for whom and stuff. But that's why I love talking to people who get newly diagnosed with MS, because I get to tell them, like, honestly, if you really think about the universe of possibility, you just got the best news of your life. MS we can deal with, you know what I mean? Like, other things we can't. But I remember, so he gave me an eye patch. I felt like a full-on pirate. Part of me was like, I'm going to rock this thing. This just totally sucks right now, but I'm going to put my little eye patch on. And somebody had to, like, wheel me through the airport. And poor Dave is like, he has to sit with this, right? Like, his wife is getting this news, and he's at home with our 2 very small children. But I'm telling you this story, honestly, not to bum you out or to discourage you in any way, but to tell you, it looked weird, you guys. I mean, let's just be honest. But to tell you that sometimes when you literally lose your way, like, I literally couldn't see. I was like, okay, well, this is what's happening right now, right? You know, when they returned my sight, because first I lost my vision in that eye, and I got my vision back to almost 20/20, 90 days later, and then I lost my vision in the other eye, 100%. And every day, Dave would go like this in front of my face to see if I could, like, tell him how many fingers he was holding up. And I remember the day on each eye when I could tell him, because every day he would hold up a number and I would tell him the wrong number. But it's just to remind you that, like, sometimes you really have to look at the silver lining, and also notice what sense are your guides taking. And once at the time, the teacher that I had working with me at the time, right, said, I promise you, whatever sense they take away, they return it stronger. So I wonder what your vision's going to look like. And I wasn't clairvoyant before that happened, and when my vision came back, it took 6 months for me to be able to drive again, because I lost vision in one eye, which legally you can't drive, and then I immediately lost it in the other eye, so legally you can't drive. So I'm like, well, me too, Cecilia. I mean, look, some partners would be like, this is too much for me, we got small kids, you're out of commission, like, and I was the insurance holder for our family. Like, it was a scary time. Like, I could have gotten fired. Thankfully I didn't, right? My company, like, worked with me. But I hope I'm inspiring you, and I hope I'm also reminding you, like, sometimes, like, if I had listened better, the universe wouldn't have had to do that. I didn't listen. Not as well as I should have, and not as often as I needed to. So when the universe is giving you little subtle signs about move this, shift this, listen to this, like, listen. I wasn't listening. I kept, like, barreling through, pushing through. No, I can do it. No, it's going to be okay. No, this is, you know. And then I had to stop and go, maybe I can't, right? Like, if the universe has to knock this loud to get me to listen, then that's something else, right? Sometimes we have no choice. But yeah, sometimes, you know, it's like I I have a good partner. Like, is he perfect? No, but he sure went through that shit with me. And every morning, I mean, so Virgo, right? But every morning, like, can you see now? Can you see now? And I remember the morning when he held up 2 fingers and I said 2. And it was he was the one who cried first, because it was like, we made it, man. Because the doctor told me, like, if you lose vision in both eyes, once that happens, you're good. Like, that's kind of where it stops. And we knew in that moment, it was like, I think I'm back. And now I have, like, bionic vision. You know? It is so beautiful. I remember just running to him and, like, jumping into his arms like, holy shit, I see the 2. It's a 2. I can see the 2. You know, and I could see my kids again. Like, there was about a week or so with each eye where I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see my kids growing. I couldn't change their diapers. I couldn't, you know, like, pretty fucking awesome stuff. So I always joke with Dave, he's got a great life with me now, which he does. But, you know, it wasn't always fun. So what this represents is that. Now I want to show you this card again. And, you know, thanks for letting me be vulnerable with you, because that was one of the scariest times in my life. And I was so stubborn. So the doctor was like, you can't go up and down your stairs. Like, I'm sorry, but you just can't. And I had stairs in my house, and I was like, fuck that. So I got out of bed one day, and I was so pissed at having this happen to me, and I was so mad that I couldn't. So I was like, I'm going downstairs. And I tripped and fell down the stairs, and I broke 2 of my toes. And I remember just sitting on the floor going, like, all that double fire, like, right? But you have to, like, go through all of that. Now you look at that card. I want you to look at that card again. Do you see why this card means so much to me and why it's always on display in my home? That hand isn't forcing me in. I'm diving in. That hand is like reminding me that I'm not alone as I dive. Right? And you can see by my posture, like the image there, and there's an owl in the water. Do you see that? So Al is teaching me how to have dual sight. Yeah. And I wonder sometimes, looking at this picture, one of my favorite places on the island of Oahu looks like this, and I don't know if it's the same point that I always go to in Oahu that means so much to me, but anyway, now you know the story. If you have something scary going on, hold on. Be careful who you listen to. You know what I mean? Like, again, I could have listened to a lot of people at that time tell me how terrible this was and everything else, but the voice in my head was, how lucky you are, Athena. How lucky your children are. How lucky your husband is. How lucky, right? Okay, so let us begin. So I want to teach you about Hecate, and I want to teach you about the concept of liminal space. So stay with me for a moment. I want you to think about Hecate. I want you to think about Hecate as the goddess of many faces. That's what she's known as, right? She is a triple goddess of maiden, mother, and crone. She's also the goddess of birth, midlife, and death. She guards all these sort of like triple gateways. And so she guards the crossroads, she guards the gateways. And so I wrote something about liminal space that I would like to read to you. So this is story time. It's 2 pages, so you're going to have to bear with me for a minute. But I really felt called, I love you guys too, I really felt called to read this to you before you make your shadow cards. And I think Team SG will post this for you, so please don't take notes, okay? And we're going to do shadow altars separately. So tonight is shadow card and session 2 of October. We're going to do shadow altar separately for you. Yeah, so get your popcorn, close your eyes, roll your shoulders back, and let me read to you for a minute. The words that you are about to hear have been surfacing for many years and have been displayed to me in many ways, mirrored and echoed to me in all of the events and unfoldings around me. It is time to talk about the unspeakable space, the space in between consciousness and the next level of awareness. the space between where you are today and where you are headed next. In anthropology, which is where the term liminal space comes from, it means a crossing, which derives from the Latin word limina, which means threshold or doorway. A liminal space is a portal. In ritualistic and tribal societies, there comes a point in the process of ritual where one is neither how one used to be, nor yet how one will be when the process is complete. Let me say this again, because I think this is like some of the core teaching for tonight, okay? In ritualistic and tribal societies, there comes a point in the process of ritual where one is neither how one used to be, nor how one will be eventually when the process is complete. That's right, Candace Mills. That's right, Cynthia. That's right, Ursula. And that's where we are right now. You are neither where you were in January. You see that, right? Like, I see you and you're not. I hope that you see you and also can see that you are not that. But you are also not yet that which will be in December. And that place, that liminal space, is a place of power. That's the doorway. You're standing in this powerful place in the not yet what will be, but the no longer what is. Does that make sense? So Carla, that's exactly right. She's like, all the confusion makes sense now. This moment that you're living in right now, you're going to choose how you frame it, how you experience it. This moment that we're in kind of collectively was that moment when I looked in the mirror and I was trying to put my makeup on and I couldn't see my eyes. Right? Like, okay, so I'm not who I was yesterday. I'm also not who I will be tomorrow. Interesting, right? There's a shifting and a changing, a moving through. The liminal space can last one moment, 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 month. It's not defined by time, but rather by energy, which can only be sensed and felt. You feel when you've crossed the liminal threshold. You feel when you have changed. You feel when you are no longer where you used to be. Concepts like this populate a lot of what we call postmodern theory, which seeks to describe indescribable phenomena. It feels confusing, it's amorphous, and people check out, right? If things get too confusing for people, what do? That's too hard, I can't do that, right? But practitioners who are going to take this work deeper, we have to check in. We can no longer skim the surface of magical work because we're drilling down into these unspoken of spaces. We're crossing the liminal threshold and we'll only be able to feel our way beyond here because there are no more signposts. Dante spoke of the liminal space in his Inferno when he told the reader to abandon hope if they enter his narrative of that world. He was warning us to let go of expectation because in these other spaces, your expectations won't hold. There's power in letting go of what to expect, and no one has ever created magic by expecting it to happen. I even think of mundane examples like Disneyland. Walt Disney did not set out to create the Disneyland that we experience. But he crossed a creative threshold and he let go of paradigms to create what had never existed before, right? Mimicry is not art, in my view. Mimicry results from an inability to cross the threshold. If you copy or create what already exists, then you haven't moved into or through the liminal space. Artists thrive and create in that liminal space, and what they birth moves us because we sense and feel that we are looking at the product of true magic, the deepest possible imagination. Some call the liminal space the third space because it's the next dimension of reality. When you meditate deeply and transform from beta to alpha states of consciousness and then even deeper to theta state consciousness, you get a glimpse of this next space. Beings who inhabit this third space are able to be seen in our peripheral vision. We sense and feel them around us when we're very still and very quiet. Gems and minerals enhance the vibration to attune us to this third space. But our dimensional reality can begin to vibrate in alignment with this magical place, which in turn propels us a bit closer to the magic I'm describing. Shamanic journey takes you into liminal space. And you do not return the same from that experience because you can't. Shamanic work shifts you on cellular levels, and then your experience of reality shifts to accommodate your new existence. And each time you return from these other levels, the upper world, the lower world, the liminal or middle world, you are changed. And you are drawn to these experiences because some part of you is seeking to align with this other space. Some part of you thirsts to evolve. Your soul aches to be free of the limitations that you're familiar with. Your comfort stops serving you. For our purposes, the liminal space is a transition in your awareness of your soul's purpose in this lifetime. And in the liminal space, we sense that our entire life is a learning landscape. Every moment, every person is an opportunity to learn and experience what is needed. And your life is so very short that you are, in many ways, running a race to learn all you can before you transition. How much can she learn? How quickly can she integrate the awareness? Integrating the awareness of your life lessons and your soul purpose is your work. But how do you do this work? You engage in a dialogue with your guides and with your environment. Of everything around you, you should ask, what is the lesson? And what am I learning? If it's all a teaching, then you will start to look at your relationships, your wounds, your sorrow, your fortune, your joy, your health, your weakness, your life in a new way. You are in a constant exchange of energy on your way through this liminal space, and you choose how you work with it, and you also choose its value. Whether it's good or it's bad, you choose its impact, whether it hurts or it heals you. And you are only responsible for you. Your liminal space, your threshold is yours alone. Others have theirs, you have yours. So what if, right? What if you began today to focus on your soul purpose by sensing and feeling rather than judging and knowing? What if you began to attend to your life and saw everything, person, and experience as your teacher? What if you started asking different questions about your health, your partner, and your children, as if all of those things and people and states of being are your teachers too? When you begin to sense what you are learning, when you are in dialogue with the universe and not a monologue, and when you recognize the power of this in-between place where you are now, something will shift even more deeply for you, and you will recognize the true power of the threshold. Thanks for letting me read that to you, because that felt very important. Oh. Well, there's some big shit here, right? I mean, Ursula, it's real deep here. And I'm speaking to you today from a place of authentic knowing. I literally had to crawl my way out of this. You know? I couldn't walk my way out of it. Couldn't climb down the stairs. So I had to slither out of it. I had to, you know, pixelate out of it. And you can't stop because there's too many people who are looking to you to learn how to navigate this, right? That's right. It's next level. Well, you guys are ready, you know, and you have the knowledge. I love you too, Tara, because I mean, honestly, you're in this liminal space. And one of the things I think about too, like those of you who have children who have behavioral challenges sometimes, or living in a liminal space. And I think that's also there's so many different reasons why we're living in a liminal space between what we perceive to be real or normal or I don't know. Whatever word you attach to that, right? But at some point, it's like, because most of us search for comfort and like trying to like pin things down. But if you stop searching for comfort, then you can start to see the real medicine of a situation. Like if I had told myself, well, I will be happy when I get my vision back, and not until then, I would never have gotten the medicine of what it really meant for me not to have my vision. But it required me to stop and go, yeah, what I just read you is mine. Is that what you meant? I wrote that. No, it's not published. So if you share it, just cite it with attribution from me. My team's going to post it for you. They have the original document. It's amazing. But at some point, and it was really fucking hard, at some point I had to ask myself, why did the universe have to take my vision? What was I unwilling to see? And the answer was they had to make me like an owl so that I could see in the darkness and in the light. Right? Oh yeah, no, that's why I just wanted you to listen. I didn't want you to try and write anything down. Everything that I just read to you will be posted verbatim in your classroom. Okay, so I'm going to smudge a little bit over all these tools and ask your spirit guides to come closer now. Ask them to guide your hand as if you're doing this with me now or whenever you do it or however you do it, doesn't matter. Ask them to guide your hand, to guide your eyes, your seeing eyes and your non-seeing eyes. This is how we learn compassion for people. I often think about that man in Tennessee. I didn't keep in touch with him. I don't even know if he still runs the power company down there, but he could have been so upset that I couldn't work that day, and all he did was try to take care of me. It's pretty magical. I hope his family's been really blessed because he sure took care of me in a beautiful way. Okay. Tony, yeah, you better get him a mythology book, girl. Tell him his Aunt Athena will send one to him if his mom doesn't comply. Okay, so here's my tools that I'm pulling up close to you so you can see. And when I'm making a vision board, I start to kind of lay things out, and I usually figure out what my background's going to be, right? Oh, I just loved him in that moment. I was so afraid he was going to be mad. Just because, I wouldn't have been mad at somebody, but I just knew how much he had invested financially and time-wise and stuff, and I just kept telling him, I'm so sorry. But I think he was old enough to be my dad at the time, and I think he probably saw me as as I would now, like if that was his child, right? Okay, so I want you to go through and kind of think about what's the energy that you need to articulate. And I'm not in the same place I was when I made these other cards. Part of it was when I made this card, I was having to learn how to love myself through being kind of a rule breaker. I think I was still wishing that I was like other people when I made this, right? And now I'm not in that place anymore. Like, I really do love the outlaw in me. I've learned that, like, I can I'm so glad you're here, Kenneth. I've learned that I can be an outlaw and still be worthy of love. So this part of my shadow I've integrated. I'm no longer like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I could follow the rules? Now I'm like, screw the rules. Like, I don't do that, and I accept that that's who I am. So I've evolved since this. I have evolved since this. But I love these cards because they do represent that place and time and what I was working on then. I think more of what I'm working through now is still working through my own mysteries. There's still parts of me that I'm meeting and connecting to, and parts of me that I'm still really curious about. So this image like jumps out at me, even though it's like a light bulb. I don't even know what's happening here, but I want to use it this way because what it represents is breaking a paradigm. I still think that part of my work in the world is to break a paradigm. Now, this is a big-ass card. I don't know what size this is. It's the same size that we used for Olas. I don't know what size that is exactly. But what you could do, sometimes if you're working with a picture frame, it'll have like an insert inside. And you can actually build your, yeah, Alexis put donuts in here for me. It's part of my shadow, right? Sugar. But if you have the insert to the frame, you can actually build your card on the insert, and then you can make sure that it'll fit your picture frame. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Or you can cut it down when you're done, which is fine too. So I'm going to go through, and I'm just talking you through this, and I don't think the donuts are going to happen for me today. I'm really going through and asking myself, like, what images I connect to. There's a picture of me that I wanted on here, so let me see if I can find that. It sort of represents the here and now. It's a recent picture from our one of our photo shoots earlier this year. So I might, like, cut part of me out. Just kind of a sliver. And let yourself drop into a meditation. You can anoint with oils as you do this. You know what I mean? Like, let yourself kind of drop in and relax. Let your consciousness soften. That's why crafting is so important, because it takes you out of the sort of an active or a working mindset and creates space for art. And I do want you to see this as art. I've often thought I could never do it because my work with Sage Goddess isn't set up to support it, but I'm like doing too much all the time. But wouldn't it be a beautiful business idea for somebody to make shadow cards for people? Like, listen to them and then channel something for them. But like, this is kind of, I'll show you. I'm going to glue this on and then I'll show it to you. See if you like it too. Yeah, we're doing herbal medicine after this, Rana. This is just a little crafting. It's like a bonus craft, what we're doing right now, so you don't have to do it, but I wanted to show you. Because if you're going to do it, you should probably do it now so that you have this, or like sometime this week, so you have it for your altar. I'm just using a glue stick, and I'm placing this image at the bottom of my card. I'm not going to worry about it being perfect. I'm just sort of placing it. And then I'm going to show you how I cut out this picture of me. And I'm going to put that on there too. And this is how it starts to come together. So it's like I'm lighting my flame and I'm releasing energy from the light bulb. Like my flame becomes the inspiration kind of thing. But what I like about it from a scale perspective is what I have learned to find comfort in is how small I am in a really big universe. So what this reminds me, like, of course, a light bulb is much bigger or smaller than I am, but I love the idea that I can see how small I am relative to the rest of the universe. And also the power of like one flame, one intention, one vision. Yeah, so you can incorporate a picture of yourself. You don't have to. I don't always. And I've used avatars, like pictures that represent me but aren't me. And then you can go around and add other words or phrases or pictures that resonate with you. There's like sex honey image there too. And there is a little bit of that. I mean, I find that no matter what, certain parts of my shadow, like my passion and my intensity and stuff, like it's always part of the work. I'm here to be a passionate and intense person, and that sometimes makes people uncomfortable, but I also know it's part of my medicine for people. And I've also learned if they can't handle the intensity, they'll go away. You know, like in perfect time. But I've also learned, like, God, who shared that meme today in social where it was talking about, I think it was Jenny Perry. It said something like, let me see if I can find it because I saved it. Maybe I can read it to you. It was that good. I don't save all of the memes, but this one was pretty flipping good. It said, "Sweet girl, it wasn't that you weren't enough. It's your energy. It asks others to rise up, and not everyone is willing to go where they would grow." cool is that? Isn't that beautiful? It's your energy. It asks others to rise up. Isn't that cool? I'll post that in the group because that really resonated with me too. Alexis gave me some weird shit. Like, look at this one. I told her it was weird as F too. She knows it's weird. It's like, what? I love you, Alexa. It's so weird. I do have the Magician card. Yeah, I'll post it. It's pretty cool, right? It's like, you know what? It's your energy, and your energy's not comfortable for everybody, and it's not meant to be. And if they can't hang with it, then they're going to go away. And you can sit up and cry about that, or you can wish them well and deal with people who are aligned to your frequency. You know, it's like crying over spilled milk, as my grandmother would say. It's like that doesn't help you. Here's a beautiful pomegranate. That's definitely going in. Not the juice, but the fruit and the seeds. I used to not like people who didn't like pomegranates because I thought it meant that they weren't magical. It used to be like a litmus test for friendship when I was young. My parents had a big pomegranate tree that always was fruiting. It's not as good anymore because my dad's getting older. He doesn't fertilize it the way he used to. But so I would invite people over and I would give them a pomegranate. And then I would wait. And if they didn't like it, in my head I was secretly well, we're not going to be friends. Where does that go? And then kind of play with it. You know, like, this is your art. Like, have fun. Let the little boy out. Let the little girl out to place things. I'm probably going to add some herbs to this tonight because so much of the herbs and oils that we're working with tonight are uniquely sacred to Hecate. So you're going to probably see me add some different dimensional stuff to this. Oh, this is pretty. Oh, not Starbucks. Sorry. I'm not a big Starbucks fan. Fucking weird cat, Alexis. How weird is this cat, Alexis? I'm telling you. Alexis! I'm giving you a hard time. I don't like that cat. And Claire doesn't like it either. It's not my spirit cat. Oh, sexy. I just want sex. Hold on. I'm not trying to be sexy. It's such a weird cat. And yeah, Claire was telling me Alexis sent her an email and she like put that cat at the top of the email and Claire was like, what the hell, Alexis, with your weird cat? A cat looks like a person in a cat suit. It's super creepy. Seriously, we're all gonna have like nightmares from creepy cat and Alexis. Okay. I appreciate her creativity. I don't like it. Wish. I am dealing with my magical history. Let's do that. I sure am. That'll come up more when, I'll share more when we work with Pachamama. I've got some lineage stuff going on right now. I'm sure you do too. Yeah, here, you guys want this one? This is why it's fun to do it live, because I could just pass, like I could give you the weird cat, and then honestly, if we like hung out together, I would fully expect, where's the weird cat, what I do with it? I would fully expect that we would like hide this in places just to freak each other out. I think did I throw it away? Oh no, here he is, look at that. Weird. I'm going to post it in the group, and then when you're having a bad day, you can look at that creepy cat. I'm not putting it on my thing, though. Let's see if there's anything else that I want to use here. It's so weird. I always put owls in mine. You know, owl isn't my medicine right now. I'm not working with that. Are you having fun? Is this good for you? Okay, so I'm gonna cut my board because I want this to be at the top. So now I'm gonna size it up a little bit. And you can do that. Like once you figure out what you want the edges of your board to be, you can size it up a little bit. Yeah, take some off the bottom. And then even it up on the sides. Now it's looking good. And then what you do is you decide, you know, how much do you want to complicate it. Now you're going to see two different iterations of this, right? My original card, super complicated. My second card, my original card is very simple, right? It's so much more about me. And the moment and the simplicity of it draws you in because there's not a lot competing for the space, right? Yeah, Michelle's right. Maybe it goes on the back. You know what I'm going to do? Alexis, will you post the weird cat picture in the group? I'm going to put him on the back. And then if you want to have a super creepy cat on the back, which maybe will make you laugh, you know, shadow work is so serious all the time. Look at him. Creepy. You can also print stuff out off of off your computer. You don't have to have magazines. I feel like he needs like he needs some glitter glue, I think. Maybe make him extra creepy. He's so awful. For Christmas though, or for her birthday, you better believe I'm gonna print this out and like frame it really nicely for like her home, maybe like in her living room. We do stuff like that around here for like gifts. We remember like things that you really don't like, and then we make them really pretty for you. Or maybe I'll have like a pillowcase printed with that. So creepy. Okay, in all seriousness, back we come. I'm going to cut out, this is a picture of a champaka flower. I'm going to cut this out really quickly because there's a few energy streams that I want to be represented here. One of them is beauty, because the way through all of the challenges of my life has been through beauty. Through choosing to see beauty in people rather than ugliness, through choosing to create beauty in the world rather than feel sorry for myself, choosing to align with beauty rather than aligning with all the other things that we can align with. Like beauty has been my salvation. And that's why I spend so much time talking about beauty and teaching beauty, because I really believe beauty is a healer. And, you know, as you know, I don't mean physical beauty. I mean God's beauty, the beauty of all creation. So that's going to go on there. And I feel like I want that to be coming out of my head like a crown. How do I do that? Oh, that's kind of neat. Let's see what you think of that. Well, that's a great question. Amy asked, so should this card represent, how did you frame it? Our medicine to our shadow. It can. creepy cat's driving me up the wall because now I'm getting like glitter glue all over my hands. You're just a piece of work back here, creepy cat. Oh, and now he's got like red glitter all over his face. This is for you, Alexa. A mess. Anyway, to the matter at hand, do you see how I added the champaka above my head? There really isn't a place for you, Libby. I tried to integrate you. Well, it's interesting, right? I love that. Olya said, you know, in Russian tale, there's a cat who sits on the oak tree and tells tales, stories with a lesson, right? It's interesting. That's very much what like Aesop's fables are, right? It's telling the stories, and every story has a lesson, and it's like, can you integrate the oh, this is an interesting way of doing it too. Let me try this. Because I'm sort of looking off to the side in this picture, and what's kind of cool about this is having the cat look back at me. Let's see what you think. Because I so identify with being a cat. I love cats. I understand cats so much better than I understand people. I'm an expert cat translator, I think. I don't have any proof of that, but I think I am very good at that. So I'm going to put this cat facing me. Okay. So this feels good for me for right now. Not the back. The front feels good. The back feels like my shadow a little bit, though. You know, it's like shit I don't like, or shit I think is weird, or, you know, maybe I'm still coming to terms with like being weird myself. Let me see what your question was, Amy. Sometimes if you want me to answer your question and you're asking me again, if you can reframe it for me, because when I go back up in the feed, it will only let me get so back up. Let me see, Amy. Yeah, it's better probably to reframe your question. Yeah, and just let me know if you have a question for you. Do you? Darla Music said, I also speak to animals. I'm the one at a party having full-on telepathic conversations with the pets. Seriously, I will, if I'm at a question and or at a party and I'm uncomfortable with the people that are there, I will just be like, do you have animals? Can I go talk to your animals? Maybe they're more normal than you are. I literally will go and befriend people's animals at their parties if like the human scene isn't working for me. Okay. Yeah, so if you have a question, just post your question. But I can't really go back in the feed very easily. So there it is. And then I'll show you, because we're going to transition to herbs and oils now. I will show you how you can add, and you can zhuzh this and you know, make this fancier if you want. You can add rhinestones and chipstones and all kinds of things to it. And one of the things you might enjoy too, what should you be yeah, so I would say figure out what you want this to be. What I've decided every time I've made a shadow card, it's been about acknowledging the energy of this moment, whatever this moment is. Let me put this down. And so, like I said, the previous cards that I made, the energy was really different at the time. It was much more about, it was much more about struggling with being different, I think, still at this time in my life. Even though it was only, I mean, it's a year ago now, right? But I think I was still struggling. I think at the time, if I recall, I was struggling with not really being accepted sometimes by like other parents of other kids in my neighborhood. Sometimes there's a little bit of like judgmental stuff, and I think that's what I was sitting with, because in my life it's been really weird. Not following the rules has made me successful professionally, but sometimes it makes me questionable personally. Like, she's such a rebel, she's so different, she's so this, that, the other, whatever it is, that like that's what characterizes me professionally, but then to people in my personal life, it's like it makes me kind of does that make sense? I don't care anymore. So I would say I've really worked the medicine of this. And so the medicine of where I am now, I think, is about really being willing to move deeper into the mysteries of who I am, where I come from, how I communicate, what my deeper desires are, and how I express or bring that magic forward in the world. And not needing to understand, Champaka is very sovereign as a flower, like not needing to understand where that energy comes from or where that wisdom comes from, but just knowing to trust it. Does that make sense? And people can say all day long that they don't care what other people think about them, but I always question that. Like, do you really not care? I mean, if so, I think that's great. But if I'm honest, like, I think I'm always going to care a little bit. I care what you think about me. You know what I mean? Like, I think I care on like a human level. If you really thought that I wasn't doing things in a good way, like I would really want to know that. It doesn't mean that I would change who I am or what I'm doing, but like I don't think that most people go through their life like completely like, I don't care what anybody thinks. It's like I want to be of service. You know what I mean? So like I kind of do care what people think, but it has to be people I respect and, you know, people who I think will be honest, right? But it's true. Well, I appreciate that. But like, even if you didn't, like, even if you said, look, Athena, I've got to give you some feedback. You know what I mean? I just think like this, that, or the other. I would really listen to you. And so when people are like, well, I don't care what other people think, I'm always like, nobody? Like, not even the people that you respect and admire or the people that you're trying to help, or like, yeah, if I value you, which I do value you, then I would want to know. And I hope you would know that too. Like, I also would welcome that. And so sometimes I think people say they don't care what people think so that they don't have to listen to it. It's like a defense mechanism. You know what I mean? But what I teach my kids is you should care what people think about you, but you shouldn't change based on just anyone's opinion. It should be, you know, A, the feedback should be valid. B, the feedback should be from someone you respect. And C, the feedback should somewhat resonate with you on some level. Like, yeah, you know, if I'm honest, I probably should try to fix that kind of thing. But, you know, I think it's worthwhile to care about what other people think because we live in community and we are here to be of service to each other. So let's dig in. I'm going to move my, let's see, I'm going to move all my goodies over so I can bring my mesa closer. So bear with me for a second while I tidy up my space. Alexis and Maria, let me know. There's like a creativity mini mesa over here, and I wasn't sure if you guys wanted me to do something with that. Back from Sarasvati in June, but that's sitting here. So if there is something you want me to do with it, just let me know in the feed, and I will address it. Okay. So let me finish up the craft, and let me explain what you're supposed to do with this. So you can frame it or not frame it. You can add stones and herbs and make it three-dimensional or not. But I think it's beautiful if this can sit on your shadow altar or your Samhain altar. And we will talk about what a shadow or Samhain altar looks like. If not today, probably on Monday, just to give you a visual for it. But this is something that you can put out every season with your shadow stones or a shadow statue or anything that you want. And it just will remind you. And it's also like a benchmark. When I look at the other one, I think, oh, that's pretty, and look how far I've come. I would never make a card now called Love the Outlaw. You know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't. It's not where I'm at. But I can look at that and I remember where I was, and so it's a cool, like, I'm making progress. I'm not as caught up in the stuff, you know, as I was maybe at the time, which is really cool. Okay. Now, so we're going to begin with our with our oils. Let's make our perfume first. And then we will work with our herbs. and our border bath ingredients too. So just getting everything ready. If you want to have a pipette with you, that's helpful too. Okay, good. So they just wanted me to tell you the June mini mesas are back in stock. Thank you for that, you guys. I really appreciate it. If you want that, it's there. Okay. So let's start with benzoin. You ready? I'm telling you, like, I think every month we have made an even more beautiful perfume possible this month. And I really thought that Venus was everything. Aphrodite was everything. But this month may actually be better. So I want you to take 3 deep inhales of benzoin, also known as Styrax. This is the resinoid equivalent of amber. So I think you know that ambergris is illegal because it has to come from a whale, and whales are endangered. And so we use Styrax benzoin, which smells just like real ambergris, really, as close as you can get, in place of what is an illegal alternative. If you ever see ambergris for sale and they say it's real, be very, very cautious of that, because it's probably a black market ingredient. It's really not available anymore. But they do say, I haven't actually smelled, but they do say that Marie Antoinette, if you visit her chamber in the Louvre, that you can actually still smell the ambergris on her clothes and on her closet and in her drawers, because ambergris is a fixative, it never goes away. So everything that it touches, almost universally speaking, will smell like ambergris forever. Isn't it interesting? Now I love it. This turns me on. Like, I literally have a physical reaction to this. But let me tell you why it's so powerful. Yeah, in Versailles too, you can smell it. So it's just interesting to think about it. This resinoid benzoin has been sacred in Asia for thousands of years, and the Javanese shaman believed that they could use it to shapeshift from one form to another. And so even though it's not technically sacred, ambergris is spelled like Karen Brown spelled it, Ambergris. It's ambergris, right? But it's because we don't pronounce French very well in English, it's ambergris. But it's not, it sounds like grease, but it's spelled gris, right? So this is revered as the holder of energies. It's a summoner of energies, and it is for shamanic shapeshifting, from moving from one form, like human to animal, or animal to human, or spirit to human, or animal to spirit, right? It's an aphrodisiac. It brings prosperity. It's also a sedative. A lot of the ingredients, especially the herbs that are in this kit, if you inhale a lot, you're going to fly away. And I just want to kind of prepare you for that. And we'll get to the most potent thing to avoid if you don't want to get really high is mugwort, because mugwort has the ketone called thujone in it. And thujone is actually it's a metaterpene that when you inhale it, especially when you smoke it or snort it, but if you drink it, so it's the active ingredient in absinthe that caused people to call that like the green fairy that made them high. So a lot of the things that we're working with, the herbs and the oils, are very mild sedatives, but taken all together could lead you somewhere interesting. Yeah, so if you have your charcoal ready and you want to burn a little bit, as we always do during these sessions, you're welcome to. I should light my charcoal and get it cooking too, because I would like to smell this one burning. I'm cooking up my charcoal over here while I... This is Funky Town. Now here's the thing. I mean, I have an odd amount of knowledge of absinthe. I'm a collector of absinthe. I have a vintage French revolutionary absinthe fountain that I bought from an estate store in New Orleans. That's super beautiful. So I've had my share of absinthe. I've prepared absinthe ceremonially. It doesn't get me high. But it'll tweak you a little bit. I mean, it's certainly if you're a lightweight, it'll get you buzzed. But it didn't take me to Funky Town. But most people probably haven't tried ayahuasca, so they don't really know what Funky Town is. So they think that getting buzzed off of absinthe is Funky Town, but that's not Funky Town. Funky down is kind of a different place. So that's benzoin. No, they don't make it with, well, I mean, some people say they do. Ooh, you should see the smoke coming out of there. It's like all these really interesting shapes. It's like all these Fibonacci spirals. It's really cool. I wonder if I can move it and show you. You ever wondered whether smoke looks different when you're burning certain things? Like, can you see that? Do you see how it kind of like, there's like these nautilus shapes in the smoke? I don't know if you can see it. I know. Not as much as it was, but whoa. I mean, you have to believe it's real. It's possible that your oils could, the smoke could take on different shapes, right? That was pretty powerful. Okay. Corresponds to the god Mercury. Mercury is important for me in particular. Mercury is in my midheaven, and as a 110 life path, which aligns with the Magician card in the tarot, that aligns with the planet of Mercury, which Mercury, of course, is connected to Hermes in ancient mythology and to Thoth, who is the father of hieroglyphics in ancient Egypt, and that's the lineage that I think I descend from. So Styrax and benzoin have always been really important to me. If, by the way, you're curious about life paths, major arcana, archetypes, and planetary alignments, I hope you get excited about next month, because that's session 1 of our work with Pachamama. We're going to go into life path numbers, archetypes, and planetary alignments, and then trace that back to help you understand more of your ancient lineage. Yes, so this is from Asia. This is from Sumatra and Java, although you'll also find it in different parts of Southeast Asia too. It is a sedative, so don't over inhale unless you're trying to do that for your own purposes. Yeah, next month is going to be really fun. And I think you'll enjoy kind of the double click on understanding and studying the planets more. Mercury versus Venus versus Jupiter, and trying to understand the connection between your life path number and some sort of basic planetary interpretation. So next month's going to be really good. Okay, then Narcissus. Take 3 deep inhales here. Narcissus is not technically daffodil. Did I lose you? Can you guys see me okay? Yeah, look okay. It's stalled on the YouTube, but then it looks like I'm still going live. So if you have any trouble, let me know. Yeah, Nathan, that might be true. So this is pure Narcissus poeticus absolute, which is really rare and really hard to find. Okay, good. What I want you to do is smell it alone, and then I want you to smell it with the benzoin. I love that. Okay? I love it. You don't have to love it, but I'm just telling you, I love it. This is one of my favorite combinations. Okay. Narcissus poeticus is not the daffodil. It's the ancient daffodil. It's actually the earliest daffodil ever to present itself. So it's not the yellow one. Narcissus poeticus is the white daffodil that has like kind of the red-orange center. It's quite different. But one of the things I like to say about Narcissus, and you know the legend of Narcissus in ancient Greek mythology, right, was that he fell in love with his own reflection, right, in the water. And so some people are averse to Narcissus because they think of narcissism and they think of like one who loves looking at themselves. But I look at this medicine quite differently, and I want you to kind of hold space for it too. I think Narcissus, the flower, and honestly, modern interpretations of daffodil medicine align to this a little bit. I think Narcissus helps us see ourselves more accurately and more clearly, especially if you've had like body image issues. And not everybody's had body image stuff. I have, so if you have, like I have a lot of empathy and sympathy because it's very difficult. If you've had times in your life where you couldn't see your body image clearly, most people tend to continue to struggle with that. And so I think a big part of it for people who've struggled with body image, whether it's, body dysmorphia of some kind, or, people who are going through different phases and stages of the gender transition process, like sometimes need a tool to help them accurately see themselves in a way that aligns with what they know to be the truth of their soul and their spirit. And so that's how I think about Narcissus Poeticus. It's like learning to see clearly the beauty and the poetry of who you are. And I have so many friends, I mean, so many. And when I say so many friends, I mean hundreds of people literally who are not quite comfortable in their bodies yet. And that's okay. I mean, but they're in their 40s and their 50s, some of them, and 60s, and they're like, I still don't think that this is like me, you know? And so there's something about integrating, the ability to see yourself and to love this container that you're in. And I think Narcissus facilitates that a little bit, if that makes sense. I didn't used to feel as comfortable in my skin as I do now, but that was a process too. So this is a dreaming potion, Narcissus Poeticus. If you see the white daffodil blooming right at the beginning of the year, it's supposed to be an omen of good energy for the rest of the year too. Symbolizes rebirth, resurrection, renewal. It is the, and this is, you guys might find interesting, it's the floral equivalent of the pomegranate. So this is a flower that represents that very subtle liminal space between the upper world and the lower world. And that was the idea with Narcissus, is that he might, if he kept like gazing at himself, that he might fall in, you know. And it's like, but I actually think some of you need to gaze at yourself a little bit more to fully see the beauty that you represent. And I get so excited when I see you guys moving more toward that edge of self-love and self-acceptance. You know, it's like every time you post, Nathan, you posted a picture, I don't know if it was like a week or so ago, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, and you looked so beautiful, like so authentic, right? And I think it was something in your eyes that told me that you knew that. Like, you can tell when you take a picture or when someone posts a picture, whether they know it to be true in that moment. And I think that's what makes a beautiful picture, because you can look in their eyes and see, you know what? He knows it. He knows that that's the truth of who he is. And that's the beauty in that picture, regardless of all of the other beauty of it too. Like, it was a physically beautiful picture of you, but it was also like an energetically true picture of you. And I have to say, as your sister, as your friend, as your teacher, as someone who's loving you through this process, like, that's yummy to me. You know, it is. It's like the glimmer. But Terry, you've been getting better about posting pictures of yourself. Like, I think a lot of you have, actually, of being willing to say, here's a picture of me, or this is, you know, and it's like, I see you. And you're being willing to see yourself too, which I think is pretty cool. Well, and I can say the same of you, Kenneth. Like, I see all of you rising to that occasion, and I think the more you find that, Cecilia's doing it too, I think the more you find that comfort zone within yourself, in your own skin, with a full acknowledgement of who you are and the beauty of that, like that's like 90% of the process of healing, I think. Narcissus is also considered a flower of the dead. It's been used, by the way, in funerary rites. And so part of what it represents is the death of the old self in service of being able to see the new self clearly. Does that make sense? So it's like, a lot of times I think Greek mythology is not accurate. I don't think Narcissus was falling in love with himself. I think he was finally starting to see himself clearly. And so what looked like falling in love with himself, like an ego thing, was actually like coming to accept himself. And he was gazing because he was starting to see who he is, right? I think that's what was happening. Well, and it's, you know, and our body image changes over time. Like I said, I mean, I can look back at pictures of myself when arguably, like, in my 20s before I had kids, like, maybe I was in better physical shape, but I was not comfortable in my body, versus now where I'm like super comfortable in my body, and maybe I'm not, 2 kids later, but I think I look better, and it's mostly just because I'm able to love myself more now maybe than I was able to before. They are using Narcissus in pharmacology to treat Alzheimer's. It brings back memories. And that includes past life memories, right? So think about that too when you're working with that medicine. And then the last one is my favorite of the 3. I invite you to sample cypress. 3 deep inhales there. Now, I chose cypress because it's a really sharp top/middle note. The other two are heart notes. No surprise. And I needed something to tighten it. Remember I taught you about perfuming and that you need to tighten up when you have too much of a heart note or just too much bass note, right? So, to the Greeks, the cypress is the tree of the knowing, of those who can see. It's the tree of the oracle. The oracle at Delphi had a ring of cypress trees that was dotted by rose bushes for clear intuition and an open heart, which were thought to be the two characteristics of an oracle in ancient times. In Asia, they see cypress as the tree of the dead. Asians, especially Chinese people, often will not buy a home that has too many cypress trees. They're not into it. My ancestry says be into it. So you have to kind of decide if it's your medicine, not your medicine. It does beautiful things for perfume. This is sempervirens, which is always true, always living, always alive, always aware. It helps you travel between the two worlds, so it's a shamanic oil in that way. It honors Pluto, Persephone, the underworld, death, and rebirth. Helps you to come face to face with the limitations of your humanness, but also an appreciation of your immortal, your eternal self. Circe, who was a sorceress in ancient Greek mythology. If you ever want to see my favorite painting by Waterhouse, who's one of my favorite artists of all time, look up his painting of Circe. Circe. It's one of my favorite paintings of all time. I mean, she's poisoning the water, so it's a really shitty image in terms of the energy of it, but if you look at that, it truly is one of my favorite paintings of all time. Circe's, Waterhouse's Circe. I had a friend who had it hanging in her home, and when you look at it, you'll know what I'm talking about. She had it matted in blue velvet, this bright blue velvet, and then this big, thick, black, ornate frame. And I remember every time you walked into her house, it was Circe, it was intense. But it's one of my favorites. So it was regarded by the sorceress Circe as her favorite shielding and banishing oil. It brings divination. Ouija boards are made of cypress, so it's considered to be a conductive metal or wood to the land of the dead. So now that you know about these oils, which are all sedating, threshold crossing, dead contacting, and these are the oils that are in your candles. So yes, this is why your candles smell so good. I want you to smell the 3 of them together and beware of your cypress. It's very beautiful, isn't it? Her eyes are a little scary. That's why when my friend had that hanging in her entryway, I'm like, do you let non-magical people come visit? Because I walk into the house and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's Circe. But my church friends would be like, excuse me? What's happening in your living room right now? But when people watched Game of Thrones and they didn't know where the name Circe came from, I was like, she poisoned the water. She's not the protagonist of Game of Thrones. You have to know your Greek mythology to even navigate television at this point. Okay, so what I'm going to say is start with the one you love most. For me, that's benzoin. I also am keen to do a little shape-shifting this month. Oh, she sure did. Circe didn't love boys. I try not to judge, but she wasn't into them. I'm not going to cut this too much, so you can decide how much you want to cut it. Your black currant, by the way, is for clairvoyance. It also has so many antioxidants in it that it really helps with fine lines and wrinkles. So once you're done diluting your perfume for this month, I want you to take this and put it on your vanity at home, and just at night on your ring finger. If you're aging, if you're not aging yet, enjoy being young. But if you're aging, I want you to take just a little bit of this on your ring fingers at night and just pat, not on your eyes, but around it, especially right here. And right here. And right here. And then a little bit on your neck and just a little bit on the tops of your hands. Because you want to put as many vitamins A, C, and E, which are your antioxidants, onto those areas. Those are the areas that show the first signs of aging. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm trying to multitask with you, and I like the smell of it too. It's very subtle. But it is pure black currant oil for you, which felt very accurate for our work with Hecate. Now put your next favorite in. Mine is the Narcissus. Woo. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now I do want the energy of Cypress in there because I want this to activate my third eye, and that's what Cypress does so beautifully. It's such a powerful oil of inner knowing and wisdom, but I don't want to shock this blend. I don't want to sharpen it too much. So I'm going drop by drop. I'm going to do 3, which represents the 3 faces, primary faces of Hecate. And that was just enough. Any more than that, and it would become a cypress-based perfume. And then just cover it with your finger, turn it 3 times so that you blend it really well. That's so good for me. I really, really, really like that. See if you like it. So it's intuition, shape-shifting, seeing yourself clearly, becoming a higher, cleaner, tighter vibrational version of yourself, and then taking all of those and strengthening your psychic gifts and conjuring some eternal youth and beauty energy at the same time. And then we cap it. And you have your label, I think. I don't see one on my altar, but hopefully you have a little label and you can name yours and label yours if you want. I need to be better about that. I didn't label mine from last month. I know what it is because the smell is so distinctive. I'm like, I need to label that. Isn't it beautiful? Do you like it? You might try a little bit, just anointing with it to see how it works with your body chemistry. And like I said, I kept mine really strong. It smells better on me than it does in the bottle. Oof. Wow, that's good. Do you like it? It's so good. I've got my charcoal cooking, so I'm going to burn a little bit on the charcoal too, because I want to smell that. Oops. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, seriously, Rena, like that's the business right there. That is good stuff. Very, very, very good stuff. I'm so glad you like it. I mean, that's not a perfume you're ever going to find anywhere else. Nobody's got benzoin, Styrax benzoin with Cypress and Narcissus poeticus. Like, they're not going to walk into your metaphysical store and find that. So, yeah, and the company that my Narcissus poeticus comes from, I think, is the only place in the world that distills it, which is pretty cool. Took me 6 years to find that place, that they distill a lot of rare things from around the world. Okay, so those are the oils. Ursula's like, I have EO FOMO. I'll send you the energy of it virtually. It was super, super yummy. The thing I'm addicted to is the water ceremony. I'm going to add a little bit of that just to my hands while I'm teaching. I find it's bringing a lot of clarity, a lot of healing. Like, I use this every single day. And what's cute is some of my team even made this, got the kit and made it. So that was really cool. Like, they work here all day long and then they go home at night and they still tune in and make crafts. You know, it's like a pretty neat thing. I know, I don't want to run out either. I'm like hoarding it. But you know what's amazing is mine isn't going bad and I don't have any alcohol in mine. And I didn't even use distilled water. And it never separated. Like, there's some big magic in that bottle over there. Pretty neat, right? Oh, I like that. Candace put hers in a roller bottle and that's how she did it. Some things are just really extra magical. You know? Not that everything isn't, but some things are like over the top. Okay, Rosmarinus officinalis, because I like to say it the real way, is rosemary. And we take it for granted because it's common, and you can buy it at the grocery store, and you cook with it on your chicken and stuff, but don't let rosemary fool you. It is one of the most protective, purifying herbs you can possibly work with. I have it growing in my garden in 3 different places. You can't kill rosemary. I mean, you can, but it's like a special gift. If you have a rosemary plant and it's healthy and you kill it, like you and I need to spend some time together. Like, basically, if you water it, it grows, right? It's Mediterranean in its origins. Aligns to all of the air signs and all the fire signs. And has strong ties to Venus, has strong ties to Hecate, and it's thought to be protective, so that when you cross the veil of consciousness, I'm going to bring my my incense burner over, so I'm not reaching over constantly, so that you stay safe as you move through the levels and layers of conscious awareness. So good. It attracts love and strength, reduces nightmares, enhances your memory. Newlyweds were supposed to put rosemary into their wedding beverage. So if they were drinking wine or champagne or mead or whatever it was, they were supposed to add a little rosemary to it, fresh rosemary, and sip that through the night of their wedding and into their bedroom festivities afterward to bless their marriage with a lack of conflict and greater peace and ease. Yeah, herbs do better outside, it's true. But you know what? I have a friend who doesn't have a garden, and so she lives across the street from a park, and she's found this little corner where nobody disrupts her, and she plants her herbs over there. And it's got sprinklers, and I'm not telling you to go and do that, but if you really want to grow things, sometimes there's a way. Now, mullein is super magical. All of these are sacred to Hecate, by the way. This one is known as Hecate's torch, because when you burn mullein, especially when it's like not quite dry, it burns. Like, be careful. It like torches up. You can put it on charcoal without worrying too much, like we are tonight. But if you like just took a big fresh stalk of it, or a big partially dried stalk of it, and lit it, it creates like a torch. So that's why they call it Hecate's torch. Christians call it Lucifer's torch, because anything that burns means it's the devil, as you know. What, it burns? It must be bad. As a double fire sign, I always had a lot of trouble with that rationale. It sure does clear your lungs. Oh, Ursula, that's too bad. Yeah, if it grows wild where you are one lucky duck. It does not grow wild where I am. So if you ever feel like sending me some mullein, I will receive it with gratitude. It is the business. It wards off evil spirits. It invokes spirits. It relieves asthma. It's an expectorant. It heals cough. It's a gateway for working with ancient entities. It's a thresholding incense. So I want to give you a couple of blends. First of all, when you see graveyard dirt listed in old spell books, they used mullein. They would powderize or pulverize mullein down to like it's gray when you pulverize it, so it looks like graveyard dust, and it has like a lot of cool metaphysical properties. So that's what they would use as an alternative. Calms the nerves, aids sleep. So if you want to make like the most powerful sleep sachet, and all you have to do is take, the little organza bags from SG, like, don't throw those away. Those are really great little sleep sachets. You string them up and you tie it in a knot and put herbs in there and put it in your pillowcase. Like a little bit of mullein, a little bit of mugwort, a little bit of lavender. If you put some buchu in there, which is also in your mesa this month. Now, I gave this to you for your border bath blend, your salt scrub that we're making in 2 weeks. But if you wanted to put just a little bit in there, that would make the best sleep sachet. And then if you add a little, what would you add? Petitgrain Surfleur essential oil, which is a really good nerve tonic, sleep agent. A little bit of valerian in there, either in the herbal form or in the essential oil form, would be really good too. You'll be off to sleep. So that's all you have to do. I like to add oils to my herbs when I'm making those kind of pouches. If you wanted to also induce not only good rest but prophetic dreaming, then you'd want to put either poppy flowers or poppy seeds into it. It's so good for all of that. Let's see. That's what I wanted to tell you about mullein. Did we burn mullein yet? I guess I put a little bit on there. And then dandelion. This is the leaf, not the flower. This is healing and cleansing. It's very good for cleansing the physical body of any kind of toxins, especially the liver and kidney and what we call the processing organs. Really respond well to dandelion. It's sacred to Hecate. It's also sacred to Baphomet. It's sacred to Sekhmet. I love the smell of it. I don't know if you do. You can make it into a tea, which is really good for enhancing psychic abilities. If you're going to do that, then you'd want to also make that tea with mugwort. You could add a little rosemary to that tea to keep you safe while you journey. Some people use it in like wishing spells, wishing pouches, wishing bags. I consider that to be intention work. Whenever I see wish, I just substitute the word intention. So if you're setting intentions, making wishes, like this is a good tea to make yourself at a new moon day. Well, my daughter and I go out in the garden when there's a lot of dandelions, and we just pull them out of the earth and eat them. They're so good for people who have autoimmune disease. Like, it's nature's medicine. So, and I've taught her, and if we're making a salad or whatever at home, she'll come out of the backyard with a handful of dandelions and just scatter them on top of the salad. Yes, and the garden weed broth, that's right, that one of my friends and teachers makes. So she really believes in the power of micronutrients, which I do too. So she will pull different things out of her garden, and instead of washing them, like she'll pull leeks, she'll pull green onions, she'll pull dandelions, and instead of washing them and really getting it clean, she'll leave all of the dirt on the root systems and mix that into the soup and eat it. Because she's not using pesticides or anything inorganic in her garden, so technically it's all good juju, right? What do they taste like? You gotta try it. Don't be afraid. Like, it's okay. It's healthy for you. We eat the whole thing. Like, I try to pull it as close from, like, because usually I find them in grass. So I try to pull them up out of the grass and just pop the whole thing in your mouth. It's not bad. Put some balsamic vinegar and a little olive oil on it with some salt and see if you enjoy it. You should eat dirt on the regular, and that's not just a metaphysical thing. When my daughter was little, because I had 3 different autoimmune diseases, and so when she presented with one autoimmune disease when she was little, my doctor said if I could, I would prescribe my patients with autoimmune disease to take a capsule of fresh dirt from their own garden every single day. Just one. Just fill it up with dirt and eat it. Because he's like, we ended up in this mess. It was his theory that we ended up here with all these autoimmune diseases because we were trying to be so clean all the time. That's why hand sanitizers are completely banished from my house. Like, seriously, if you ever try to nicely offer me a hand sanitizer, I will lecture you. Yeah, because what happens when you kill everything, like, and now they're making gentler hand sanitizers that aren't like a bomb on bacteria, right? But if you kill everything, it rebounds, right? So in the process of trying to get squeaky clean, it's like we end up creating resistant pathogens, right? That cause our bodies to become, our immune systems to become overreactive. So you can't throw things out of balance, right? We don't do hand sanitizers. And keep in mind, I'm married to a double Virgo who really wishes everyone would use a hand sanitizer around him. And he's married to the embodiment of dirt. I mean, I'm not super dirty, but I'm like partially dirty. Yeah. It's good for him. It's balance, you know what I mean? Okay. Okay, and then the last one in our little collective here is mugwort. And you should hook it up and cook it. Now, if you want to really have fun, like if you're not driving anywhere for a little while, and you want to play with Play with me. Get your oven going. Tamp off the, get it back to the red glowing. Make sure it's hot for you. Yeah, it's still pretty hot. So you're going to put a little bit of the mugwort on there. Yep. And then a little bit of the buchu on there from your mini packet. Try and get it on there together. And then inhale. Oh, it smells so good. Get it back on there. What's Athena doing right now? Oh, she's getting high. In a legal, nice way. Doesn't it smell good? That buchu like blows my mind. Woo! Whatever. I'm not going anywhere right now, and it smells so beautiful. That buchu is one of my favorite things. It smells beautiful in the bag, but it really smells beautiful burned too. Yeah, we're cooking. Close the door. Okay. So what did you just inhale? You did a beautiful job, by the way, of inhaling. What did you just snort? One of the most important herbs to Hecate is mugwort. It's native to Persia, which is the source origin of the Garden of Eden. It's magic. It's for psychic visionary work. And like I said, it has the ketone called thujone in it. And thujone is also the active ingredient in wormwood. It's also in tarragon, by the way. Tarragon can get you really high. Who knew, right? Amplify psychic visions, will induce prophetic dreams. If you were to do what we just did right before you go to sleep, you might see some things. Write them down. Mugwort encourages wisdom and observation. It can be used in all kinds of dream medicine, as we talked about. It's really good for easing the symptoms of menopause. Mugwort is. It's a croning herb. So it helps to ease the transition from a little more buchu. Ease the transition from the maiden stage to the crone stage. There we go. It smells so good. Okay. It alleviates depression, nervousness, and anxiety. And consumed in large quantities is about the equivalent of drinking a glass of wine. You know, in large quantities, right? I don't know. We had it for like $5 for a big bag not that long ago. Team SG, are we out of buchu? Because we had it like a nice big bag of it. It was really affordable, but I don't know if we're out of it now. It's so yummy. And if you combine the mugwort with the buchu, it's like that's the alchemy, right? Okay. So those are our herbs. So again, just reminding you really quick, and we'll make sure it's in the notes too, for sleep sachet, you'll want to combine your dandelion leaf with your mugwort, your mullein. I would add a little bit of lavender to that, a little bit of buchu, and then you can add essential oils to that too. The ones from the kit tonight would be really good because, again, that narcissus can make you a little bit soft. If you add poppy seeds to it, then that's even reinforcing the prophetic dream energy, right? Yeah, we had big bags of buchu. I don't know. We did. You guys were all over it, so Team SG has to look for for it. We may be sold out because there was kind of a run on it when we had it. Does it give you too many visions to do before bedtime? I understand that. Okay, so now I'm going to set our herbs aside, and certainly giving thanks for all of that beautiful energy, because these are real tools for you this month. I mean, if you're trying to enhance your psychic gifts, if you're working on shape-shifting, working with Hecate and seeing her in her triple form. And I mean, this is all the medicine. These are Hecate's herbs and oils, no doubt about it. We did a really careful job at making sure we sourced everything that was unique and special to her. This, by the way, is Hawaiian black salt. This is what we're using in our crafting. So if you get the extra little jar, it comes with salt inside as well as a label in a jar. And then we're going to be using the herbs from our kit plus the bonus herbs, which is white sage leaves, activated charcoal, Hawaiian black salt, which is very protective, and then buchu leaf. And we're going to combine that all into a salt scrub and soak. So unlike this sugar one from last month, which was attracting sweetness to it, this one is about releasing, banishing, clearing, and letting go, which is a veil crossing or a liminal space crossing bath soak that we're going to be using next month. So I want to talk to you now about the stones in your grid and your mini mesa and your amulet, which is made of the indigo gabbro or the merlinite stone too, so they're all the same. Yeah, everything I'm telling you now will be in your notes. So you just get to sit back and relax and enjoy the show and not worry about a thing. Is my pace okay tonight? I feel like I'm covering a lot of ground, but I also feel like it's been kind of clear, but would love feedback. Like, are you guys feeling like you want to take a break for 2 minutes and integrate, or do you feel like it's all clear and you're ready to keep going? It's a lot. Am I good? Okay. Sometimes it's like I'm going at my pace, but I want to make sure it's your pace. Okay, cool. So let's start with merlinite, which is what your amulet's made out of. So what's really cool about merlinite is it's a natural fusion of feldspar and quartz. Okay, good. So most feldspar, remember feldspar is the family of stones that moonstone comes from, labradorite comes from, larvikite comes from, spectrolite comes from. Those are all members of the feldspar family. And they tend to have that light play, that chatoyancy, that sort of runs across the face of it that's so characteristic of, in particular, the moonstone, as well as the larvikite. And so merlinite is a hybrid of feldspar material, which is why sometimes you'll see a little bit of light play across it. People have asked, like, is it black moonstone? I guess in a way it is, but then it's a fusion of that with quartz. So it's sort of like empowered quartz or stronger than that. So you can absolutely use this. Oh my God, wait till you see the larvikite and the numite, real authentic numite that I brought home from Denver. Like, you will not believe it. It is literally the most beautiful on the planet. It's coming soon, but we're just like unpacking still. Anyway, this is merlinite, also known as indigo gabbro. It's the wizard's shielding and wisdom stone. It also shields your body from EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. And so if you're worried about 5G and stuff, this is another one to, keep wearing your amulet. It really is a good physical shield. Larvikite's incredible. So indigo gabbro comes from New Mexico. When you see merlinite, again, that's a trade name. So just so you know, somebody's, trademarked that. But its name outside of that trade name is indigo gabbro. It's for past life recall, priestessing, shamanic work, wisdom, self-mastery, communication with plant spirits, animal spirits, elemental, guardians of the sacred gateways, and the stone comes obviously from the wizard Merlin, who is known to attract and summon magical energies from stones, right? So that's what merlinite is. That's what indigo gabbro is. Third eye stone also activates the crown chakra, aligned with Aquarius, but also primarily with Scorpio, more than anything. And then the two green stones in your grid are chrysoprase. These are Australian chrysoprase. Chrysoprase also comes from South Africa, Madagascar. You'll find some from Russia. A little bit from Brazil, not as much, but the best comes from Australia. It heals the heart energetically and physically. So if you've got trauma, grief, sadness, like, it's kind of a friend. It's got a very gentle, loving, compassionate energy to it. And I love the chartreuse color of it too. Like, it's vibrant. It feels alive. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's it's the combination of that, you know. It's been used, it dates back to ancient times. If you read crystal lore, then you know a little bit more about chrysoprase. Alexander the Great thought it protected him during battle. But what the most important thing it's for, and the reason I put it in the grid, especially right above Hecate's head, is this is the stone you use to release fear. Like all the bad what ifs that you roll around in your mind, like the worst case scenario stuff, that's what this releases. Because it's okay to do what ifs if you're planning like possible best case scenario, but it's not okay to do what ifs if all the what ifs are negative. So when you hear yourself going, but what if this happens? What if that happens? It's like, yeah, but what if all the good things happen too? And there's just as much of a chance of the good things manifesting as there is of the other things manifesting, right? That's sweet. So if you feel really connected to it, keep it with you. You know what I mean? Like, keep it in your bra, or especially after we deactivate the grid, that may be one that you don't want to put away, because it really can be a friend. Some crystals have that kind of like companionship energy to them, and if you have any heart issues, physical or energetic, that's going to be your favorite out of the grid. Now, the rarest stone in the grid is clinozoisite, which is actually a member of the epidote family. It looks like this. This comes from Pakistan, which is right on the Afghanistan border. Pakistan is one of the most beautiful and richest sources of gemstones right now in the world. In fact, some of the best aquamarine, tourmaline, kunzite is coming more out of that region than even from Brazil. What this does is it balances opposing forces. It's such a good hermetic stone, because what it does is if you're all the way in grief, it brings you back to center by helping you balance it with the opposite emotion. So you can even just do an exercise like this where it's like, okay, right now I'm really stuck in sadness. So what's the opposite emotion of that? Joy. Okay. And like let the stone pull you up and out of it, like literally feeling the balance of those two. Is it Theoliter? I want to make sure I'm asking your question, seeing your question correctly. The name is spelled Clinozoisite, clinozoisite. And they're pink and green. It would have been in with your grid. If your grid didn't have it for any reason, let me know. I don't know how that would happen, but of course, it's possible. So we want to make sure you get it. Yeah, it's a hybrid pink-green. It's the only pink stone. But it's got a little bit of green, which is epidote. Isn't that cool? I like that. Yes, so much a temperance stone. Well, it's okay. Some of them are just pink, and some of them have pink and green in them. That's your clinozoisite, though. And it grows with epidote. So even if yours doesn't actually have the physical green in it, it did in the mine. So it still has the energy, even if you can't see it. No, this is different than thulite. It's a great question, though. And I can see where you would ask the question. Because clinozoisite, especially when it's all pink, looks a little bit like thulite. But thulite, I have a piece across the room I can show you. Thulite is almost more of a raspberry color. I see this as like a cotton candy color, and thulite is just a tad darker. Not much. But thulite has some darker patches in it, if that makes sense. Team SG, can you ask? Because it's in my notes that clinozoisite's in here, but I'm seeing that a couple people are saying they didn't have the stones. So if you can just check in, I just want to make sure before everybody goes home for the day that everybody got them, or should have gotten them, so that we know how to guide our sweet peeps. Okay, so that's clinozoisite for balancing, which is so important, because remember, when shadow work gets too heavy, if you have pink stones, you have it, by the way. I just want to make sure you know that. If you have pink stones, you do have clinozoisite. Okay? Yeah. So Fairy Moon Goddess, you are good. Yeah. So if you don't have pink stones or pink and green, if you only have, you would have only 10 stones, and you should have 12, not including your pyramid. Okay. It's also really good for forgiveness. Now, Botswana agate looks like this, and it's my favorite stone in the grid. They all have little doorways on them. For sure you could, Ursula, use that as a balancing stone instead. Or kyanite, blue kyanite. Although my spirit guides are saying no, green kyanite. Green kyanite? Well, I mean, in green kyanite, I guess that makes sense. It would be better balancer of the heart in particular, which I think is what we're doing this month. Because when it gets too heavy, that's when we want to check out of soul work and shadow work. That's like, you know what, I've had it. And then we want to retreat and check out. But usually when we get to that point, that's exactly when we need to push in and like sit with the energies. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, notice that moment when it comes up. That's awesome. So Ursula's got some green kyanite. Yeah, these Botswana agates are really beautiful. So this comes from Botswana, Africa, hence the name. It only comes from one place in the world. This is the stone of finding solutions to problems. It's very protective, especially for fire element signs and people in particular. It's a detoxifier for the body, mind, and spirit. It helps to balance the immune system, which is very important for me and for anybody who has an overactive immune system, if you do. It brings hope and optimism, which is very important. And because it supports physical, sexual energy, it's been used extensively in fertility rites. So if you've been feeling like you have less drive or less ability to perform with your drive, and you know, in that way I feel so lucky to be a woman sometimes, because I think there's this terrible undue pressure on men to, quote, perform, right, sexually. And I kind of love being a woman. It's like, if I want to perform for you, I will, and if I don't, then I won't. You know, it's like, I'll decide when I perform. But men, I think, have this kind of like unfortunate undue pressure on them, which I think we, as their partners, male or female, should relieve that. Because that pressure that men feel, that really could be relieved if they knew there wasn't that expectation. Like, I think that'd be very healing for men to know that they don't have to live up to some arbitrary expectation anyway. I mean, at some point we need a little completion to conceive, but other than that, we're pretty good. Okay, and then clear quartz. I think we should relieve the pressure. I don't think men should feel that. You know, like I would not enjoy it if I felt like I had to perform or I had to, you know, it's like I wouldn't enjoy that. Like, if we're going to really believe in a liminal space and that the space between is really magical, the space between light and shadow, the space between day and night, the space between yes and no, the space between right and wrong, if we really think all of that is sexy, then the space between intimacy and completion should also be interesting to us, and we should be willing to play in a liminal space, right? Well, if it's self-inflicted, though, the conversation can still help, right, Lynette? Like, hey, you know, I just want you to know I don't have that expectation. That I actually think it's quite fun just to play and be in a liminal space. And what would that look like? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that we can have those conversations. And ironically, what most of my friends and clients have noticed is when they consciously work to have those conversations and relieve the pressure, then there is no expectation and the whole process is more enjoyable. But it's like there's this like assumption and this expectation. So that's a lot of what we're like, really think about what liminal space means. It's the space between everything. You know, good, bad, right, wrong, yes, no, everything, right? Maybe. And just like let that, well, but you know, but invite them to think about their relationship to the expectation. And sometimes I think if they know that we're not holding it, then it gives them the freedom to hold it. Especially if they know that like we're not holding it subconsciously anymore, right? I didn't say sexpectation, but I love that you heard that. Or at least I wasn't trying to say that. It's true. Like so many times when people are having fertility challenges and stuff, and because so many of my clients are in that position, I never struggled. Like Dave would look at me and I'd be pregnant, you know, for better or worse. But, you know, so many of my clients have fertility challenges, and it's like, you know, I really feel for the partners, because so many times it's like they have, you know, they end up with this like, it's pressure. And then that's so contrary to the whole idea of creation and procreativity, right? It's like, need to release that. I like that. Well, and if you really are in the moment, Adaru, right? Like if you really are in the moment, then it's never this or that or either or. It's always in between. But I love being in between. And that's that. If you can learn to allow that to become your conscious, authentic preference, then, because here's the thing, the most emotionally healthy people I know how to live with ambiguity. It's the people who need right, wrong, yes, no, this, that, all the rules. Like, those people are not the healthiest people I know emotionally. The healthiest people I know are the ones who are like, I don't need to know. I don't need to have that fixed. I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to figure that out. It's like, and I crave to be around those people, because it gives the fact that they are there gives me freedom to be, right? Rather than them trying to constantly define things. And it's hard because I'm double fire. So it's like, in a way, we do like completion and finality and outcomes, and you know what I mean? Like, but trying to fight that tendency to learn how to be more fluid, because it's how we're meant to be, you know? And if you really are honest, if most of us are honest, we'll acknowledge, like, are there really answers for things anyway? Like, do you really know things? Like, what do you really know? Do you ever ask yourself that question? Like, the more I practice, the more humble I get. I think 10, especially 15 and maybe 20, I mean, especially like 25 years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I would learn one thing and be like, oh, I've got this. And now I'm like, this is a big, wild multiverse. And I think I understand like my corner of it, you know, but I'm always open to being shown that I don't. So quartz is the last thing we haven't talked about. It's, you know, some of you are new, so I want to say it's the universal magnifier of energy. It's the highest frequency material on the planet. Its clarity is what determines its potency. So the more clear your quartz is, the higher vibrational it is, in a really powerful way. Actually, Alexis, if you have that big skull in there, if you guys are still in that room, could you bring it in so I can show them? We unpacked this crystal skull yesterday, and I'm not keeping it, but it's really, really cool. But I think it's good for you to see it. Like, wait till you see the frequency on this thing. It's overwhelmingly amazing. So quartz is very powerful. It can be programmed to act as if it's any other stone. So if you need clinozoisite, but you don't have it, you can program your quartz to act as if it's clinozoisite. Right? I kept one, but it's a smaller one. I did not keep the big one. It didn't speak to me. I mean, it kind of spoke to me, but not as loudly as the other one did. It's not always, for me, it's not always the size. But the big one is really sexy. I'll show it to you in just a second. Quartz is found on every continent. It's known as silicon dioxide. That's its chemical formula. And so silicon dioxide is the most common mineral on the planet, but it changes in terms of its frequency in order of its transparency. And then the last thing that we haven't talked about in your mesa for this month is your obsidian knife, which is actually an arrowhead with a handle. So that's what this is. So I'm going to talk about that for a second. Yeah, well, so your mat is sort of organized by the directions, right? Stones in the north, candle in the south, and then you have your herbs in the east and the oils in the west. But you can move them around, especially if oriented in your room it's different. You can move things around to be aligned with the space where you are. So all you do is hold your quartz. So like, let's say this is what I've got. But I'm wanting black tourmaline because I want to call in that level of protection. So you hold your quartz. Some people take it in their non-writing hand and hold their writing hand over it. Some people feel like they have to bring it to their heart or to their third eye. But I've just found I can just hold it and connect with the energy of the crystal. And I like to say things out loud, because saying things out loud and writing them down makes a bigger dent in the matrix than just thinking them. Your thoughts are powerful, but your words are more powerful. So I program this quartz to act as if
It is black tourmaline, including all of the metaphysical properties that are ascribed to black tourmaline, including deep protection, grounding, psychic protection and clarity, and stabilizing. And what I like to do is visualize that crystal actually turning into whatever I'm asking it to be programmed toward. So, until this stone is deprogrammed, may it work and function for my purposes as black tourmaline. Amen, and so it is. And quartz is powerful enough, and it holds the frequency. There's a couple of legends about quartz that are worth telling you. And I don't mind leaving that programmed in my grid because it could use a little black tourmaline, you know? Yeah, super fun. What else was I going to tell you about quartz really quickly? What was I going to tell you? Programming? Oh, quartz is, in my experience, one of the crystals that if you have a piece, does not want to be given to somebody else. You know how sometimes you'll have a crystal and somebody will ask you a question and you'll be like, oh, well, here's a crystal. Like, I have a piece with me. Like, my quartz jewelry and stuff, I do not give your quartz to other people. Quartz, and this is true to my experience too, develops a relationship with its owner. And it's such a vacuum of energy that it learns everything there is to know about you. It senses your environment. It picks up on subtle changes and differences. And in my experience, quartz gets disoriented when it's moved or when it shifts to be working with other people. So there's a lot of different crystals you can give to people. But if you've had a piece of quartz with you for a long time, unless you're really called, that's not the piece to give. Because it does. That's exactly right, Sharon Westline. It bonds with you. I give everything else away. I actually have a little pouch in my car of small stones, no bigger than like my thumbnail. I probably have like 40 or 50 little tiny stones in there. And that's what I carry with me. So when I meet people and they're like, oh, I would love to attract some prosperity, or I don't carry cash with me very often, cue siren, but I have a policy that if anyone I see, like when I'm out in public, and I've taught my kids this too, if I ever encounter someone who's asking for money or, asking for resources in general, I always give them something. I always stop, I always make eye contact, and I always give them something without judgment. It's like, I don't even know what it is, but my grandmother always told me that angels appear to us in human form, and often they appear to us as humans that we would judge as a test to see how we'll interact with them. And so my grandmother always taught me, like, never walk by somebody who is asking you for something or is having a hard time and just like pretend that you don't see them, because it's a test usually. But if I don't have money, I will give them a crystal, or I give them something. If I have food, I'll give them food. And someone who's really in need will still appreciate. You know what I mean? If I have money, I give money, but I don't carry cash on me as like a general rule. I don't know why, I just don't. That's what credit cards are for. So, but I will give them something, and so usually I have crystals with me. The only quartz that I wear every day is this piece, and it's interesting because I have never programmed this piece. This piece programmed me. It's a very, very, very powerful piece of quartz. And so it's my navigator, kind of, right? Yeah, but you know what? And even my husband's like, I don't know about you giving things every time somebody asks. And it's like, the only time giving isn't in alignment is if you give more than you have to give. If giving harms you in some way. But as long as you're giving in alignment with what you have to give, it's not my place to judge whether somebody's being authentic or honest And in my experience too, like most people, it's really hard for them to ask for something. I can't imagine going out and asking people for money. Like, I just can't imagine that. So it's like most people, I assume it's hard for them too. And so I don't go up and say, hey, is this for real? I'm just like, hey, I see. But I always make eye contact. It's very important to look at someone in the eye and say, I see you and I don't have any money right now, but here's what I do have. And I believe it's just as valuable because I think your intentions are powerful, and it's like those moments are very beautiful if you allow them to be, Okay. Last but not least is this. Now, arrowheads in Native American tradition are thought to be very powerful. They're very sharp. This will pierce your skin, right? Yeah, you can give them energy too. You don't have to give people things. You can give them the peace sign and blow them a kiss and send them a burst of good energy. We live in a multidimensional universe, right? So energy is very real. Yeah, well, some of them do treat it as a job, right? But that's where I come in and say it's not my job to know whether that's their job. It's my job to show up in a way as open-hearted as I can and only giving what is comfortable for me to give. Okay. Now, obsidian comes from Arizona in the United States. It comes from Mexico and it comes from Peru. This is Mexican. These were hand carved for us just for your mesa. You could add a handle to this. You don't have to. That's why I kind of like that it has a handle on it already. Your tip is missing? Your tip shouldn't be missing, Angela Fleury. Maybe you need a new one. And so this deflects negative energy. It wards against evil, and it absorbs and transmutes low frequencies. And so one of the things we're going to do in our Hecate meditation is we'll talk about cord cutting and cord narrowing. And I'm going to teach you both techniques. And then during the meditation today, if there are things you want to release, either by narrowing the cord or by cutting a cord, it's always my preference to narrow a cord rather than cut it, because cutting it is irreversible, narrowing it is not. I don't know if mine, I can touch it, which I guess may mean it's not super sharp, but this would still, with enough force, this would pierce your skin. It's not piercing my skin right now, but if I wanted it to, I could get this to pierce my skin, right? So it's thought to be an accurate tool, at least by ancient standards. It breaks negative emotionally based patterns, including self-abuse, addiction, poor perception of your own physical body, and so on. It enhances spirit communication. You can also use this, you can set the intention to use it to seal the aura. So, because obsidian's very good at sealing auric tears and auric holes. And so if you felt like your heart has been attacked in any way, you can just go through your whole aura and seal it up. And always work behind you too, right? Energy gets trapped behind us, our auric field gets opened behind us, and then we don't go through and if you're having pain anywhere, go over where you're having pain. Again, sometimes pain can be the result of a torn auric field, and you can seal it with obsidian, which is very powerful. That's so weird, Angela. Well, we'll fix it for you. If it doesn't look like that, it's not right. So let us know. And we'll replace that for you. It's a very powerful emotional teacher and healer, and the shape has been sacred for many, many years. So this is your gift and your tool for the month. And with that, where is my bell? Maybe the spirits don't want me to end class. With that, session 2 is complete. Now, I have a giveaway. I'm going to show it to you, but then I'm going to go and post it in our Facebook group. So I'm just going to, because I want to tell you the story about it. And then I want to, and then I'll post it. If you feel called to it, you can enter to win it. I brought these back from Denver, and I just unpacked them, and I bought them all at the same time with the intention of giving them to one person. And this is somebody who needs to create real balance in their heart. Okay? So I found the palm stone first. This is fuchsite with kyanite, which is the blue, and ruby. And I was drawn to it because, do you see there's a ruby heart inside of a kyanite heart? Inside of that fuchsite. So ruby is the heart healer. It channels the life force. Kyanite is a balancer of the chakras and the endocrine system. And then fuchsite is a master healer of the physical body. So I found this first. And then as I was there, I found what looked like the partner pendant. So you can meditate with this, and then you can wear this. This is all done in sterling silver. Same thing, ruby, kyanite, fuchsite. And there's a little cabochon ruby there for you. And then the last piece is you'll also get the matching pendulum, which is also, oof, it's a powerhouse already. I'm not even barely holding it. So one of you is going to get blessed with little treats that I picked out with a lot of love and finally was able to unpack. There's a little quartz sphere on the end of the string of the pendulum. So balance in matters of love. Isn't it cool? So I'm going to post it. I'm going to take a picture of this right when we're done here. I'll go put it in the Facebook group. If you're called to it, say yes, and I'll come back and choose a winner of it on Monday. Let's do Monday. That way it gives you the whole weekend to decide if you feel connected to it, and I will announce the winner of it on Monday. Isn't it sweet? There was just something about it, and it started with the palm stone. I mean, I literally made a beeline across like multiple booths to get to this ball. I was like, nope, that's going to Soul Shift. So anyway, I will take a picture of this and post it now. And then I'm back on Monday for our live gemstone sale. It's the next edition. I think Maria and Alexis were not in the room next door, so they couldn't bring the skull in, which is not a big deal. But I will show it to you. So that's going to be in the live sale on Monday. And then I am out of the country until the following Monday. And then our regular schedule resumes. So come hang out with me on Monday so I don't miss you for a whole week. It's always hard when I'm traveling. I miss you guys when I don't see you all the time. But we're really lucky. We have beautiful travel guides who have arranged everything for us. So I'm really looking forward to our trip. So Monday from 4 to 6 p.m., Alexis and I will be here. Alexis is back. It's a great question, Denise. I would say either Epsom salt or Dead Sea salt or Himalayan pink salt would be really good. You could use Hawaiian salt too, which is beautiful and purifying. Those would be my best choices for the salt to use. I do love Epsom salt because it's magnesium. It's really good for your muscles. It's very soothing to the physical body. And it's a powerful detoxifier, so you could mix a little Epsom with some Himalayan. Of course, Dead Sea salts come from sacred space, right? So it's like you kind of can't go wrong no matter what you pick. So thanks, you guys. I'm looking forward to it. All right, have a beautiful rest of your evening and your weekend. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you for the weekend or the days ahead. I think we're good. I'm looking forward to seeing your shadow cards. If you want to take a picture when you're done and post it in the group, I would have so much fun this weekend checking out what you made. But I wish you just an absolutely beautiful weekend. Thank you for wishing me the same. And I will see you guys on Monday. Monday is the live gem sale, part 2 of our Denver unpacking at 4 p.m. We'll see you guys.